Strategic online branding, building a reputation that gets results. Hi, I'm Ralph Henderson. I'm your host for the Supply Chain Marketing Group brought to you by Supply Chain Brain Media. The Supply Chain Marketing Group is a professional development series for supply chain marketing professionals that bring branding, content generation, lead generation, online strategy, and earned media all together to better help you understand how to put together powerful marketing campaigns that make your company and solutions more well known when your prospects are looking for them. If you have any questions during today's session, please put it in the Q&A area, and we're going to have the chat open today, and our presenter is going to be asking questions and interacting and engaging with you. So please feel free to chat with our presenter, and then also we will get to your questions today live if time permits. But if it doesn't, we will get back to you. Delivering your brand consistently across touch points is vital to build brand awareness and earn new customers. In digital ads, businesses rush to create content across platforms, but often the results are inconsistent. The posts don't clearly communicate the value prop. This session is going to dive into how to do online branding and how to deliver consistent messaging that earn you new clients. We're going to examine online brand presences across touchpoints. We're going to talk about results. We're going to look at websites. We're going to talk about social media and more to critically evaluate how to create a strong brand presence. At the end of this session, you'll know how to evaluate your brand touchpoints for strategic consistency, clarity, and impact. You're going to learn the elements of a strong online brand and how to build brand messaging that gets results, how to evaluate online touchpoints for brand consistency and value, how to build a strategic content and communication plan, and finally, how a consistent multi-channel strategy elevates your business and delivers results. To do that, we're going to bring on a subject matter expert like no other. Her name is Krista Neher. She is a seasoned marketing professional, and she helps companies around the world with their digital marketing capabilities. She's the CEO of Bootcamp Digital, and she's the best-selling author of 4 books, and she's an international speaker. Krista is a social media pioneer. She ran one of the first corporate Twitter accounts before social media was even a recognized phrase. She's got over 15 years of branding and marketing experience. She's worked with companies like Procter & Gamble, GE, Macy's, Google, and the United States Senate. She's been featured on the New York Times, CNN, Wall Street Journal, NBC, CBS, Mashable, and the Associated Press. She's passionate about social media and digital marketing, and she even created one of the first accredited social media certification programs in the world. You are going to enjoy and get a lot from Krista Neher. Krista, welcome to the show. I give it to you.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Thank you for having me. And thank you to everyone joining us today because you decided to take some time out of your schedule to level up, accelerate your skills. And this is what's going to help you to be more effective in your role and drive growth for your organization. I've been working in marketing now for over 20 years. And one of the things that I know, especially when it comes to a topic like branding, is that a lot of people struggle to really understand what branding is and what the principles are. And so, what I'm excited about today is that I'm going to show you the principles of branding and how you can apply them to your own business. We'll also audit some different businesses so you can see some of this in action. At the end of our time together, my goal is that you know how to strengthen your brand and you can be more strategic in every single touch point because you're thinking through the strategic brand lens instead of the content and activity lens. And here's what I mean by that, because we're going to touch on this a lot in a lot of different ways. But a lot of the times when it comes to our marketing activities and materials, we're very tactic driven and very activity driven, right? You think of your LinkedIn page, right? And maybe you're at a big trade show and everyone says, well, you need to post about the trade show on LinkedIn. So you're posting about the trade show on LinkedIn. Well, that's an activity driven strategy, right? We're saying that because we have this activity, it's something worth talking about. A strategy driven approach is where we say, we want people to know these three things about us, and our focus is sharing content that's aligned with it. So as we go through our content today, you'll learn more and more exactly how to put a more strategic lens on. And the impact of this for you is that it's going to make all of your marketing more focused, get you better results, and ultimately increase your overall brand presence. So I'm super excited to talk about this today. What I'd love to do is kick off with a quick question for you in the chat for those of you who are joining us live. If you think about yourself and your business right now and where you're at in sort of your brand strength and brand journey, how would you rate the strength of your branding efforts? So we're not talking about marketing, we're talking about branding, right? And branding really comes down to your sort of consistency and deliberateness of showing up in a clear and similar way and conveying strategic messages across everything you do. So if you can go ahead and share in the chat what you are thinking about in terms of your overall brand message. And I'll have this chat open throughout. So how strong do you feel like you are in terms of your current branding? And there's no judgment here, so you can share wherever you think you're at. And so that'll help me to get a feel for where you're at. So I'm seeing like a 5, a 3. Yeah, branding, here's what I'll tell you. Stuff like branding is hard, and it also takes some organizational buy-in, right? Because sometimes within an organization, especially sales-driven organizations, they think, well, no, it's just about phone calls, right? But the truth is that phone calls are easier when people have heard of you and already think something good about you, right? So that's what we really want to be thinking about. If I think about my own brand, even, there's certain aspects I do really well. You can see, look, like branding, but what I'm really good at is visual consistency and deliberateness. But even when I look at our content through the brand lens, I'm always finding opportunities where we can be even more focused and more strategic. So I want to kick off by sharing some branding principles with you so that you understand the elements of a strong brand and how to go about creating one. Now, I started my career working at Procter & Gamble, which is arguably the biggest and best branding company in the world. And what's really interesting, though, is that these big brands that you've heard of and they have been doing this stuff for many, many years in a very specific way. What I always find interesting, though, is that when you look at other small and medium businesses, we tend to want to like reinvent the wheel or try and do totally different things. But the truth is that the principles that build a strong brand have been around for a long time, and they're very effective. If you look at the strongest brands that the ones you trust, the ones that are always at the top of these, branding lists, what you'll see is these 4 elements of branding are things that they consistently do exceptionally well. So as you evaluate your brand, what I would encourage you to do is for each of the elements I'm going to talk about, give yourself a score on a scale of 0 to 10. You don't need to share it, but give yourself a score on a scale of 0 to 10. And you may adjust it as we go and you learn a little more, but that'll help you to see what are you doing well and where do you have opportunities. So the first thing that makes a strong brand is being memorable. Now, we often act like memorability is something like it's either inherent to the other person, right? Like if I meet someone and they don't remember me, I'm like, oh, well, it's that they didn't remember me. There's nothing I could have done about it, right? Or we think like, I don't know, people just don't remember me. Like it's something innate that I can't control. That's not true. There's actually specific things that make brands and human beings memorable. The first thing that makes people memorable is specificity. So if, let's say, when I actually started my own business and I would meet people and they would say, well, what do you do? I didn't want to get boxed into social media because I started doing social media specifically. But I was like, no, but like I had worked at this big branding company. I can do so much more. So when people would say, what do you do? I would be like, well, right now I'm focused on social media, but I have a strategic branding background, and I would ramble on. It's completely non-specific. So if they interacted with me and then came back and somebody said, well, hey, what does Krista do? They'd be like, I don't know, maybe something marketing, right? It's completely not specific. Specificity makes you more memorable because if you're not specific, people can't even understand what you do, right? The reason that no one could share what I did, the reason they couldn't remember what I did is because it wasn't specific. A lot of the times what you see, especially in B2B industries, is these like vague jargony things, right? Like we're a leading solutions provider of logistics, leading innovative technology automation across the globe. Like one, I could not tell you what any of that means. And two, if we look at the third point of a strong brand, it could be anyone, right? Like that's not they all say like this weird stuff, right? Like it's not specific or differentiating you in any way. So if you want to be memorable, be specific. Make sure that your brand is articulated in a specific way so it's clear for somebody to be able to sort of pass it on. When I worked at Tide laundry detergent is known for the best cleaning, right? It's that simple. Gain laundry detergent is known for the best smelling. And so the specificity is what makes it easier for the brand to get traction. The next aspect of memorability is simplicity. If you try to make things complex, people won't remember it. One of the problems that I think a lot of businesses have when it comes to specificity and simplicity is that we're worried about pigeonholing ourselves, right? So it's like, no, but we also can, and we also can, and we also can, right? It's like, think about Tide laundry detergent, right? Biggest brand in the world and one of the most sustained brands in the world in a competitive category. The reason it's effective is because it's very clear what that value proposition is, right? Best cleaning. Now, here's the deal. If you look at their advertising, who do they target? They target moms, right? It's like a woman with kids, a minivan, often a dog. So they're targeting like suburbanish moms. It doesn't mean that that's the only people who use it, right? Being specific doesn't mean if someone asks you to do something else, you say, no, 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 we don't do that. It means you're like anchoring yourself in your primary unique selling proposition that differentiates you from others, right? So we're primarily focusing on that difference. So memorability is about specificity, simplicity, and the third one is consistency. The brand looks the exact same all the time. That is absolutely vital if you want to get traction. You need to start building sort of memorable and consistent touch points that people are starting to get that familiarity with. We know that it takes 7 touch points for someone to remember you. So we want to make sure that we're consistently in front of them in a way that always matches, so it builds that brand sort of memory thing. Visibility is also a part of it, right? Because I said it takes 7 times for people to remember you. But when we think about visibility, one of the things you want to think about is that studies show that the more you see something, so the more you see a brand or a person, you actually like it more and trust it more. Think about buying something in the store, right? If it's a product you've seen advertised or you've seen before, there's a good chance that you might want to, that you're going to buy it because it has trust. It's familiar to you. A brand you've never heard of has less trust and less likability. So this is how we maintain memorability. Next is authenticity. Ideally, you want your brand to be authentic, which really means that it feels like it has some level of personality to it, or there's like kind of like a specific tone or a specific way you operate. And you also want to make sure that it's focused on getting something across that you're actually delivering on, right? So if you think of like Comcast back in the day, I don't know if it's still true, but back in the day, if you went to their website and looked at, let's say, their mission statement, it was like saying that they want to provide superior customer experience and blah, blah, blah. Yet in public, they were known for having one of the worst customer service experiences. So you need to make sure that the way you position your brand is authentic to how your brand operates. Getting mission driven is actually a key to authenticity coming across well from a B2B standpoint. For example, with Bootcamp Digital, we are very mission driven, right? Like we provide training to help businesses get better results from digital marketing. And our mission is to improve the ROI of marketing for businesses. That's our mission. So you can get more out of everything you do. And if I start thinking about how our brand comes to life from an authentic, mission driven standpoint, my key to success with this is that when I'm, let's say, talking to a client and, let's say I'm talking about a training event, when I speak about something, so let's say I'm going to have a handout, I don't say, well, I I like to give out handouts. I don't say, do you like handouts? What I talk about from a mission driven standpoint is, listen, when I speak about a topic, it's really important to me that it drives change for the audience and that they don't just go and listen, but they're doing something. And a handout really facilitates the action step. And I know we both want the audience to have an amazing experience. So that being said, is it something we can incorporate into this presentation? So you see that every interaction starts to bring this authenticity around our purpose and mission, and it makes everyone you interact with be more consistent, and it actually improves our brand presence overall. So if you are mission driven, that authenticity can come across really nicely as a brand, especially in B2B, because oftentimes your clients are interacting with people on a variety of touch points. And you want all of those touch points to continuously be showing the same thing, right? So if you have exceptional customer service, well, I should see that when I work with your sales rep. I should see that when I work with the operations person, right? I should see that when I'm getting invoiced. So you want every single thing to relay and convey that authentic purpose-driven mission. Next up is differentiated. Okay, so as you think about your business and your brand, it's absolutely vital to start thinking about what differentiates you from other good options. And I always say other good options because what I see when people talk about like the purpose of a blog on their website, right? Or they talk about their branding even. I can't tell you how many times I hear people say, well, we're providing thought leadership and we want to be seen as the experts. This makes me want to vomit like that. Here's why. Here's the problem, okay? Is that does not differentiate you from another good alternative. That differentiates you from bad alternatives. But like, listen, if I'm coming down to making a decision and it's against you and your two biggest competitors, am I really like, oh no, but wait a minute, they have thought leadership and these people have idiots who don't know anything? No, right? Like all of the companies are run by people who probably know what they're doing, right? So thought leadership, expertise, not to say those aren't important, but that's like the level playing field. Everybody has those. What is it that actually makes you different? How do you stand out? Why would I choose you over other good alternatives? So it's really important to differentiate yourself and then make sure whatever that differentiation point is, it's emanated in every single touch point that I have with you. So if it's, let's say, superior customer service, well, every single thing needs to emanate that. You should have live chat on your site to be as accessible as possible. You should have fast response times. And everyone should, including the sales reps. Everyone should speak in a way that shows their vision to serve, right? Look at Chick-fil-A. Chick-fil-A is a business that wants to differentiate themselves on service. And you see it every time you interact with them. And it's a simple phrase, my pleasure, right? Isn't that what they all say at Chick-fil-A? I think it is, right? My pleasure. But what it shows is the simplest thing. They're told to do it. They're trained to do it. What they're trying to do is have consistent, visible signs of their differentiation point. So when I go to Chick-fil-A, my experience makes it evident that they have better customer service versus something that they put on a mission statement that no one reads anyways. So as you look to differentiate yourself, really think about what is it that makes you different. It could be a specialization, etc. And sometimes you could articulate this as what's called USPs, which is your unique selling proposition. And then the last one is your credibility. What is the credibility that makes your differentiation and branding believable? What's the credibility? So if I want to be known for great service, maybe I've won a customer service award, right? Maybe I show our online user reviews because that's building the credibility around those things. But what is it that makes this believable? When I worked at Procter and Gamble, they would call this element reasons to believe, RTB. What are the reasons that I'm going to buy into your brand value proposition? And then what you want to do once you have your reasons to believe, you want to disseminate them subtly and overtly throughout all of your different marketing. So like for us, maybe one of the things we want to show is that we don't do these like stupid hacks that never work, right? Because we do serious digital marketing training for people who want long-term results and understand that these stupid hacks and tactics are a flash in the pan. They don't last, right? So if that's something that I want to show people as a brand, I need to think about from a credibility standpoint, how do I get that across everywhere? Or are there specific credibility things that we can build upon to get that idea in someone's mind? So when you look at the most powerful brands in the world, what you're going to find is that they all have these elements in common, whether it's humans and a personal brand or businesses branding themselves. And if you were to look at these four elements and rate your own brand, you'll be able to see where your strengths and weaknesses are. When I look at my own brand, what I'm exceptional at is credibility, right? You heard in my bio, I write my own bio, so I can put whatever I want in there. But it mentions all of my key critical accomplishments that make someone go like, oh, wow. If you go to our website, who we've worked with, our Trustpilot ratings, trust and credibility are built everywhere. We're really, really strong at that. I think we're very consistent and specific. Where I feel like we don't do a good enough job is authenticity and personality. We struggle with that sometimes. And differentiation isn't always clear. So it's these ideas, and you can rate yourself to start figuring out where do you want to play to your strengths, and are there things you can do to strengthen your opportunity areas. As we look at brands like Tide that I worked on previously, we can see one, yeah, from memorability, it's very specific. Best cleaning power. It doesn't claim to be the cheapest, doesn't claim to do everything. Best cleaning power. It's a simple message. It's easy to understand. The benefit is understandable to a human, right? I know the benefit and why I want cleaning power. I don't know why I want the leading innovative solutions provider of complex logistics innovations around the globe. So specific, simple, and consistent, 100%. And if you're thinking to yourself, well, sure, Krista, you're showing us a laundry detergent, it's a consumer brand. The principles apply to everything. The consumer brands just do it better because they have more at stake and more practice at it, right? So the same principles apply to every single business. But if you also think about memorability from a visibility standpoint, one of the things you'll notice is like the more you see an ad, the more you start to trust it. Think about Temu, right? It's a great example. Or there's a video game on that you get ads for. It's called Royal Match, right? If you're active on your phone, they do tons of mobile advertising, and all of a sudden, just by seeing these ads again and again, you're like, maybe I need to do business with this company, right? That makes a big difference.
Hey, Krista, we have a couple of questions coming in, and I don't want to interrupt you too much, but I have one that I think is really relevant, and I'm going to try to paraphrase. So, what the person is asking is, what is the disconnect with brand being so important, with lead generation being the number one thing we do in the supply chain space? In other words, what they specifically said is, as a buyer, I think brand is important.
Yeah.
For some reason, the people they report to who's telling them to do lead gen campaigns don't put as much weight on the brand when it's their time to do that. So, how can we talk about the significance of the brand as it relates to how it really generates more leads and therefore more business?
It's a great question. And I think it touches on like the difference between sales and marketing to some degree, right? So here's the deal. If you're only focusing on leads and that's the only focus you have, the challenge with that is that you've like not warmed these people up. So your conversion rate isn't likely to be as high as it would be if your lead generation was combined with branding. Think of it like this. Like I do think this is the easiest example. You're at a bar and you're single and you meet someone of the opposite sex or the sex that you're attracted to, and they come up to you and you're there looking to mingle and meet, and you see them standing beside you and you say, "Can I get your number? I would love to take you on a date." What's the chance that they're going to say yes? Right? Unless you're drop dead gorgeous, probably not super great. And the reason is you don't even know if they're single. You don't know if you have anything in common with them, and they don't know who the heck you are. They have no trust in you. On the other hand, if you meet them, "Hey, blah, 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 tell me about yourself. What do? You have, oh, are you single?" Right? You have a bit of a conversation. You get to know each other. Now, "Can I get your number?" I've just dramatically tripled, quadrupled my chances. The point I'm making here is that you have to work much harder to get cold leads than you would to get warm leads. So cold leads take more work, warm leads take less work. So usually these strategies are combined. The other thing that I would say to keep in mind as you're thinking about this sort of like dichotomy a little bit is that being strategic and on brand doesn't necessarily take more time, effort, and money. It takes more deliberateness. If you think of the examples I'm giving you about how my brand is emanating, almost none of these examples are actually things that I did that are new and I spent more money on. It's about doing something I already do in a more strategic way, right? Like, I'm going to respond to your email anyways. I'm going to tell you why I want to do a handout anyways. I'm going to have a booth at this trade show anyways. Why not focus it better on being memorable, authentic, differentiated, and educated, and getting my key brand message across, so I'm building up that consistency for when people are ready to buy? So that's the second thing, right? It doesn't necessarily cost that much more money, but it does take a lot more deliberateness, and it takes time. You need time to do this stuff well. But what it's doing, if you do this, is you're getting more out of everything you do, right? The third thing that I would say when it comes to the importance of of branding and differentiating is that a focus on lead gen and I'm not saying you shouldn't do it, right? So we like to say good, bad, yes, no, things can work together. But a focus on lead gen assumes a very specific buying path, right? And we often make all these bizarre assumptions about buying paths and qualifications that like really just aren't true. And here's what I mean by that. I worked with a B2B company and they were focused on getting leads. 100% focused on getting leads. And the leads would go to sales reps. And they were doing leads by running webinars. And what they would do is when they looked at who they would send the leads to, if you signed up and didn't show up, they wouldn't actually send you to a sales rep. They would only send the people who showed up to the webinar. And I was like, first of all, do you think that I'm less of a good prospect for you because I didn't happen to have that hour available exactly when you wanted it? Like, think about it. How does my time and attention at a webinar have any connection to how good of a lead I am for you? In fact, it could be the opposite, right? A lot of lead generation appeals to a very particular type of audience who frankly has some time on their hands, right? Like, I may never sign up for a webinar on your topic because I'm busy, because I'm not interested, because I'm a high level decision maker. Does that make me not a good prospect? Not really, right? So lead generation it's a very focused tactic. As we think about branding, what we're thinking about is setting the environment to make our leads more effective and to reach people who aren't going to come through all of our traditional lead generation. So we're kind of like making more from every touch point is how I would think about that a little bit. One of the things as I think about like these principles, right? Memorable, authentic, differentiated. I wanted to also share like a few pitfalls I see. So one of the things I get asked all the time by small, medium businesses is like rebranding, right? They're like, we're going to rebrand. Hey, we decided to redo our logo. Talk about a waste of time and effort. Unless there's a really big problem with your logo, like I worked with a company and their logo, it was called like Sun Shower Learning, and their logo was yellow. It didn't stand out on white, which is mostly where it shows up. That's like a real problem, right? But look, these are the biggest companies in the world. Look at how much their logos have changed over time, right? Their quote refresh is a tweak at best. The reason is they spend millions and millions of dollars over time to build a reputation. if they keep changing their logo, they don't have that consistency. Small businesses think they're rebranding all the time. And the truth is, your brand, your name, your logo, it matters way less than anyone wants to acknowledge for the most part. Look, there's a hotel chain called the Drury Inn and Suites. Think about that name, Drury Inn and Suites. That's like literally the worst name I could have created for a hotel. If somebody was like, come up with the worst name of a hotel, Drury, it's like dreary, right? You can't even say it, it sounds horrible. Every time I see this hotel, I'm like, the hotel must be amazing that it's successful with this awful name, right? But it's successful. So consistency and simplicity is more important. Constantly tweaking and changing your core brand elements is really an unnecessary activity and should be avoided as much as possible. If you look at the biggest brands, I looked up Tide laundry detergent. They spend $250 million a year, and they've been advertising for 79 years. They've been advertising one message and one logo. Yet, as a small business, we're like, no, we're going to keep changing our graphics because we don't want people to get bored. And we're going to have 10 messages that we throw at them in a scattered way all the time. It doesn't work that way. That's not how you build memory in people's brains. So what we want to think about is sort of simplifying what we're doing and avoid making constant changes because it only diffuses your brand. The other thing I see a lot of is, especially on social media, there's no consistency around like the key messages you want to get across, what you want someone to think of your business. And oftentimes it's because we lack focus. We have too many messages we think matter. Biggest businesses in the world. One idea, one message, millions of dollars, many years. That's how you win. So we want to take these winning strategies and apply them ourselves. And like, frankly, B2B isn't often great at this stuff. So that's why you have a really big opportunity. Okay, so when we look at brand messaging, the easiest way that I think about brand messaging is this. If I interact with your business in any way, what is the main idea that I should have in my brain about you? Right? It should be what you do and why you're better. And that should be emanating from everywhere. And you don't have to say like, we're better because, right? It doesn't need to be that granular. What you do, why you're better. So if I go to your trade show booth, I should understand exactly what you do, and I should understand why I would pick you. As you look at all of your touch points, they should all be emanating the same idea. So if you don't have this yet, you want to start working toward it, because what we know is it takes 7 touch points for someone to remember something. We so often think as small businesses, I know like I'm guilty of this. So we added AI to our training mix a year or two ago, and it's the most popular topics we cover right now. When we started pushing our AI training, it was so funny because I met with my team and I'm like, we really got to make sure everyone knows about our AI training. Like, we got to go all in on this. The trend of people searching is up. We got to nail it. And somebody said, well, I mean, we sent an email about it. It's been posted on social media. And I'm like, can you tell me what you read in an email last week from a company? What we need to do is find 7 different ways to say this and say it 7 different times. And sure enough, our 6th email on the same topic, people are like, oh, hey, Krista, I just saw you guys are offering AI. We just had a conversation about this yesterday. So keep in mind, the reason simplicity matters is because people need to hear and see things again and again and again, and the message needs to be so simple for them. Like, think about Coke. Coke is selling happiness. All their messaging always shows the same thing, right? It's not one time it's healthiness, another time it's like an indulgence, and another time it's whatever, right? Every time it's selling the same thing. If your stuff looks like this, you're doing it wrong. And this is mine. So first of all, like, I know what to do, but the execution eludes me sometimes, much like it does to all of us, which is, it's okay. We just want to get better and better and better, right? But like when I do these activities with my team, especially, I find I end up getting less focused instead of more, because everyone has ideas and they all sound good, right? So it's like, what makes us different? Well, how we design training, the content of the training, and the support. Those are like, that's like everything, right? And then in each one, we have 3 things, and then we have 3 ways we bring it to life. No one on my team can even remember or say this. How could we get this idea into someone else's brain? We can't. That's the answer. We can't. Instead, we need a clearer and more simple message, right? It's about practical, the way we're positioning ourselves now is the biggest digital marketing library focused on practical and actionable strategies, right? And even then we have two ideas. One is trying to make us seem big and legitimate, the biggest library. The other one is about how our training is truly different than anything else you're going to get on LinkedIn Learning from other people, etc. But this no one could remember. So really think about simplifying what you do and always ask yourself, what is this one idea? Like if our marketing is successful, we ought to be able to call up people in our target audience and be like, oh, have you heard of company name? What makes them different? And they should say our branding message. That's how you know you're doing it well. It's about getting the idea in someone's head. So all of your branding messages should be singular. People can't remember a lot. Not complicated, it needs to be singular. It needs to be simple. Anything that's jargony, innovative, technology, it's not specific enough, right? And it's not simple enough. You need to be able to tell me and I need to be able to tell someone else, right? That's how you know that it's simple, it's shareable and understandable. And then it needs to be different than your competitors, right? They're all experts, they're all going to do an okay job. So why would I pick you versus good alternatives? If you think of trade shows specifically, I know a lot of you do trade show marketing. To me, this is where it's like 10 times more vital because like literally the point of a trade show is that probably your competitors are all there, right? Like that's how trade shows work. It's all the people in the industry are usually there. So standing out is more important than ever. Yet if you look at what you see, it's sameness, right? Sameness, lack of specificity, or our idea of differentiation is like some better swag. But what does better swag have to do with why I would pick you? Literally nothing, right? We spend so much time on things like swag or boot design, but what are we conveying to the people who we've earned the time for them to look at us and talk to us? What are we conveying in that? And that's what you really want to be thinking about. So what is that one message that you want to get across that speaks to why people choose you? So why do people choose you? And how do you get that single clear question across? I always say, like, if you're struggling with this, like, think like a toddler, right? Why is this important? But why does it matter? Why? An example I like to use to bring this to life is if you think about Snickers hangry advertising, right? You've all seen ads for Snickers, right? You're not yourself when you're hungry. It's about being hangry. Well, it's a great campaign. It's well executed, but how do they get to that idea, right? How they get to that idea is why. So why does someone choose? So there's a million things you can eat. You're hungry. You have literally endless options, right? Why do you choose Snickers? Like, so start, why do I choose Snickers? Why would I have a Snickers and not spaghetti? Well, okay, it's a snack. Okay, cool. So why would I choose a Snickers versus other snacks? You know, look, there's Kit Kat sitting there. There's whatever, M&Ms. Why would I choose a Snickers? Oh, well, because it's more filling. So it's an actual product benefit that's different than all the other ones around. It's more filling than the other products that are most likely to be substitutes for you, which would be other candy bars, other candy or chips, right? Convenient snack foods. So now we know why we're different versus other good options. Now we say, well, why does it matter to someone? So our difference is it's filling. If they just said Snickers really fills you up, right? That could work maybe. But what's better is to figure out, well, what is the benefit of a more filling snack? The benefit is you stop acting like a maniac, right? So this is a strategy you can use to get to better branding if you're struggling with it. The next thing you'll want to do is evaluate your touch points. You want to think about first, what's the strategic purpose of each touch point within my overall marketing strategy? So if I'm on LinkedIn, what's the goal? Which of these stages of the marketing funnel am I trying to hit? If I'm at a trade show, which of these am I really focused on? And how do I leverage multiple ones, right? So maybe my main goal is leads and conversion, but I'm also going to use it to get my brand in front of more people. So it's kind of like awareness and conversion, right? Think about the strategic purpose. And then what we want to do is evaluate all of our touch points. So the way you get more on brand is first, make a list of all the touch points that you have. We call this a touch point analysis. Basically, it's any way anyone comes into contact with your brand. So it could be advertising, trade show booth, a salesperson calls them, your website, customer service, something you've sponsored, driving by your building, seeing your trucks, anything at all, right? And we think about it, prospect, client, loyal client, former client. Then what you want to do is for each touch point, do an evaluation. What's the strategic purpose of this? So what's it supposed to do? Do we have a metric? Some of you won't, right? Like if you decide we're going to put our branding on our trucks, right? You're probably not going to have a KPI for that. Does it convey your main message point? So as you evaluate, oh, they could call our customer service. How is your customer service conveying that value point? And again, it doesn't have to be overt. Look, Chick-fil-A, right? They're not like, bye, remember we have the best service, right? It's like, oh, my pleasure, right? It's emanated in what they do. So make sure your communication point is coming across. Ask yourself, like, what is this really achieving for me? What would somebody think after they saw this? What is that idea implanted in their brain? That's how I always think about it. And are we being consistent with it? So that's how we want to sort of evaluate our touch points to make sure that we're being as strategic as possible. Now, what I want to do is show you an example where we can actually see some businesses and talk about how are they emanating their brand power, right? How are we seeing this? So I just randomly chose these companies based on Google searches. So if you're thinking there's some strategic reason, it's not. I Googled something related to, supply chain, and this is what I got. So the first company I found is this SSI Schaffer, right? Or Schaffer, yeah. So, okay, look at this. So I'm like trying to figure out like what's their brand, what makes them different? Warehouse automation, how automation can reduce operating costs and increase productivity. So pretty clear what they do. And they're basically offering to save me money, right? Costs and productivity are both money. So their main value proposition is this is going to be a time saver. So now I'm going to look at their other touch points. And what I kind of want to do is just, again, start looking at everything they're doing and start asking myself, is this consistent and on brand? What's the main message that's coming across? If I followed them, so on their website, they promote Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. If I were to follow them, let's say on Twitter, right? Let's pretend I follow them and I actually read everything they post. What is that building? So now here, look at this. SSI Schaffer designs and manufactures storage, material handling, intralogistics, and waste technology solutions to businesses. I think it should say for businesses. Either way, one, it's different than what I saw on their website. Like it's actually a different type of message. Oh, I was on a product page. But even if I go to their homepage, right, it's a different kind of message. Here, they're my innovative global material handling partner, whereas here, they do storage, materials handling, right? It's consistency that's important. So one, the overall presence, and then they have here this tagline, logistics solutions, think tomorrow. Super jargon heavy, not specific, not memorable. But again, this isn't consistent with what you see on their website. I don't see that kind of stuff anywhere, right? And the idea of think tomorrow, that's saying they're future focused. That's not anywhere in their description. If your benefit is we're future focused, we're going to give you the supply chain system based on what's coming up next. So you don't have to update so often. Think tomorrow, then everything should be consistent if that's their benefit. But you can already see they just throw these things out, and everyone does this, by the way. But like think tomorrow, oh, we're forward thinking, that's not shown anywhere else. So you're not going to ever build traction around any ideas if you approach your marketing this way. Then let's pretend I follow them. Okay, so it just says like Memorial Day, thanks. I have a calendar, I was off work, I already knew it was Memorial Day. It has nothing to do with anything. Okay, stay ahead in warehouse automation, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Probably no one wants to do that, so they're just promoting themselves. Celebrating National Technology Day. Even if I read all their posts, it would not build, if they want to be, again, pretend they wanted to be innovative, think tomorrow. Their content should be building that idea. Their content's doing nothing for me, right? Let's look over at Facebook. Again, now we have a bit of a different visual here. We still have this think tomorrow thing. And it's the same type of content. None of this is showing me any particular reason why I would choose them. What is their unique selling proposition? The way I would evaluate social media content is I would spend 2 minutes with it, looking at it. So like I'm doing now, right? And then I should be able to answer some basic questions. Why would I choose them? What makes them innovative? What do they do? What makes them different? And frankly, even if I spent hours on this, there's probably too many messages happening for me to clearly be able to articulate something like that at the end of the day. Right. And that's what we want to think about. Another, like, just tangible example that's a little off topic, though, is I was working with a law firm and they were using Instagram as a hiring touch point. So it's supposed to make people want to work there. But all it was is just like full of pictures of people. It's like, oh, we have a new group of interns. Here they are at lunch. Oh, we had this happening. It was like this activity vomit. But the question to me really was, why would someone want to work there? And their HR had 4 reasons articulated as to why someone would want to work there. Every post should be building one of those points. If work-life balance is one, instead of like, oh, look, they're at a restaurant, it should be like, hey, here's our Zoom picture and show one of the employees with the dog on their lap, and like, we think flexibility is important because we know people perform better when they feel comfortable. Right? That builds a strategic message you care about. It's not activity vomit of here's all the stuff we're doing. So now we look at their LinkedIn account. Here again, we see Think Tomorrow is getting a little bit more prominence here. We look at this, right? A leading global solution provider for all areas of logistics. Innovative technology. I could read this whole thing and none of it is going to tell me why they're different and why I would pick them. Right? That's what you want your brand to be doing, is that it's consistently building a key message. They have good visual consistency. They don't have very good brand consistency. And then this is their YouTube channel, right? Again, you see the visual consistency, but not the brand consistency. Another example, right? I can look at their website. What am I going to think? What do they do? What message is getting across? Then I look at all of their different touch points and try and understand this stuff. And what you see again, an independent supply chain consulting organization specializing in the design of warehousing, distribution, and fulfillment. Clients include literally everyone. Companies and Fortune 500, like that's every company. So don't put it in there, right? But what you'll see is as you start looking at stuff, it's not really leading anywhere. Right? Even when you look at their posts, what's it leading toward? What should I think and how should I think about them after I've interacted with it? So you can do this same exercise for your own business, right? Start looking at all of your touch points and ask yourself, what is this building toward? What is the strategic purpose? Because that's where you're going to be able to see if your touch points are on brand or not. So the key to success here is that you want to have strategic marketing, not activity-based marketing. Activity-based marketing is what usually happens when we decide that it's like a stream of what's going on, right? Oh, we're at this trade show. Look at us at the booth. Oh, look, ha, ha, ha. Here's the trade show floor, right? It's activity, but the question is, what's the purpose behind the activity? Instead, we want to start with strategy. What's the best way to achieve a goal? So if, let's say, I want to be known for like superiority in service line A, then I want to say, like, what's the best way to show this to people? What's the best way to bring this to life? What's the best way for it to be demonstrated? Oftentimes, activity is not the answer to that, right? For example, like, I try and use these more universal examples because they're easy to wrap our brains around, right? But like this law firm that I worked with, one of their strategic priorities was to promote their tax practice. And when you looked at their content, sure, half of it was about tax, but it was like a blog post or it was, an event. If you really want to show people, if I wanted everyone to know I do tax, it wouldn't be with a very specific blog post on tax because frankly, most of their target audience doesn't want to be tax experts. That's why they pay a lawyer. What it would be actually would be just an image that's like, we now do tax in big, bold letters. And that's how people would know I do tax. That's the best way to achieve the goal, not showing that I have a trade show booth or that we wrote a niche article on a topic. An article would suggest we want to educate people. They may or may not want that. So what we want to think about as you think about being more strategic, always start with the goal when creating content. You don't need to recreate your marketing every time, so you shouldn't be recreating it. You can say the same thing in many different ways, right? Tide is about the best clean, but they say it in all different ways. It's the best stain removal. It's best at keeping whites white. All of those are ways to say it cleans better. Use a greatest hit strategy. If you have content that performed well, keep redoing it and always optimize. Half your marketing doesn't work, so focus on what does work. But the key to success is to start with the goal, right? What is it that we want to get across? And then what are the ways we're going to get it across to people? And this type of a strategy focused content approach will get you better results in the long run. As we look at emanating this in a multi-channel platform, this is where it's more important than ever because people have more interaction points with your business than they ever had, right? It's not as simple as, well, the only interaction is when the sales guy calls them and when they get their invoices or whatever it is, right? They're now seeing you in so many different ways. So you want to look at your digital and physical ecosystem and start asking yourself, is our channel strategy strategic? And this is the formula that we use to define strategy. And I think if you do something like this, it helps your brand to come to life better because you're being more focused, right? You're starting with the end, the objective, the goal, instead of the tactic. Oftentimes, again, these activity-driven strategies, they're tactic-led. Oh, let's push this through LinkedIn. Well, pause. What are we actually trying to achieve this year? And does, quote, pushing this through LinkedIn, is that the best way to achieve this goal, right? We always want to be goal and strategy centric. So if you use this GSOT framework, what it'll do is it'll help you align your marketing tactics around strategy. And then you can evaluate them for brand and effectiveness because you know exactly why you're doing each one. And that's really the key to success. If I'm not clear on what I'm hoping to achieve on LinkedIn, it's always just going to be content vomit. But if I can start with my goal, here's what I'm trying to get done, here's my objective, here's my main message, here's my brand, now I can come up with content, a strategy, and metrics that are aligned, on point, and designed to give me meaningful results. And so you can see this example that we built out with various strategies, objectives, and tactics. And really what this does for you is it helps you to get more focused and more aligned in what you're doing overall. So what I want you to really think about as you're evaluating your brand and you start looking at some of these frameworks, we want to understand what a strong brand is, right? Then we want to make sure that we're evaluating our touch points and starting to see what's working or not. And by getting it into a strategic framework, we put that last piece of the puzzle together because now we know what we're doing and why and how to get better results from it. And that's really how we are successful in building a consistent brand strategy that starts to win hearts and minds of our target audience. And Ralph, I believe you're popping back on to wrap us up. There we go.
Yes. Wow. You can take a breath.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that very, very much. My goodness gracious, a lot of information. Thankfully, everybody here, everybody who's registered will get a on-demand link so you can watch this again. I know with Krista's previous shows, I've had to watch them a couple of times, which is good because you get something out of it every time. And depending on where you are and what you're working on, you certainly will get something out of it differently as well. So, Krista, before we let the audience go, one of the things we need to talk about is now that we've had this, 53-minute presentation, what is it that they should be leaving with? Because look, at the end of the day, it is all about taking action, right? Otherwise, this was a wasted hour. And I don't mean that obviously insincerely, but help them with what they should do and what might be the next steps and how they can remember today's show.
Yeah. So again, exactly like Ralph said, right? If you listen to me and you don't do anything differently, you wasted your time today. I don't want you to waste your time because there's valuable information. And I 100% know if you do these things, you will get better results, period. So the first thing is evaluate your brand strength and get focused to your brand. Get alignment on what you want to stand for, what your brand is about, what differentiates you. Once you know that, ask yourself, what's the main message we're trying to communicate? You're putting all this money into a trade show, let's say. What should I walk away from if I've interacted with you? It should be really clear to everyone exactly what that is. Evaluate your touch points. Then we're starting to say, is everything clear and consistent? Are we purpose driven or are we vomit driven, right? Vomit is like putting stuff places, right? And the reason businesses are like this is because we have to make and post so much more content, right? If you were in a time machine 20 years ago, if you're making a TV ad and spending all this money on it, you're going to be pretty clear on your message, right? But now it's just constant. So we've lost our way, we've lost our focus. Start building strategy first content where you know what you're trying to achieve, and then let this GSOT model guide you so that you're always clear on your strategy and it's strategy and brand centric instead of activity centric.
Wow. So look, folks, you now have your marching orders. And again, you can go back and watch this on demand. But I would encourage you to do this. And here's what I would love for you to do. Share it with us. Let us know. Give us the success stories. Give us the horror stories. I mean, it's funny, we learn more from how we fail than we do when we succeed. But obviously, we want you to succeed. So do this and then let us know. We would love to hear from you. Like we said, you can get a copy and you will get a copy of the deck. You're also going to get a checklist. So the other thing Krista's done for you is she's created a checklist so that, if you're anything like me, and I know in the materials handling and supply chain space, we very much like our checklists and kind of our marching orders and what we need to do next. So you'll get that in an email within 24 hours of the show. If you're watching this on demand or in the library, simply just scan the QR code, which you can do now, of course. But if you don't get a chance to do that, we will send that to you. And then for those of you who have asked via the chat and the Q&A, how do I get a hold of Krista? If you can't get a hold of Krista, that, my friend, is on you because she is every place. So I will just say you should be able to get a hold of her for sure. So with that, I just want to say, Krista, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. All three of these webinars for the audience, it's a three-part series, have been very informative, very valuable. Certainly looking forward to applying this. I know we at Supply Chain Brain Media and the Supply Chain Brain team have been using this information, and so we appreciate that. And with that, I will tell you, we wish you the best. We hope to see you out there soon. And until then, make it a great day.
Excellent. Thank you so much.